Well, it's past noon, so I guess it's fine if I open a beer. Cheers. Welcome back, everybody, to me doing the weekly Navel-Gazing, where we talk about all the books I read last week, all the videos I made last week, all the books I plan to read this week, and maybe videos. Who knows? It's always a bit of a surprise. So let's go and talk about books I read last week. And turns out all of them were rereads for reasons. So I did reread Empire of AI by Karen Howe, which is an excellent book and you really need to read it. And then I reread The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff, which is also an excellent read, but a bit more dense. But I also highly recommend reading it. It's a good book, and it makes you think about stuff. And then I reread Techno-Feudalism by Yanis Varoufakis, which is also a good book, although, you know, somewhat less so because of Varoufakis' tendency to grandstand and talk about himself. There is an issue there, and I do like Yanis Varoufakis, and I have a lot of respect for him, but yeah, he's a bit of a rock star, and you can tell, and that's sometimes gets in the way of having a book be all it could be, at least for me. But it's still worthwhile, and there's some fundamental ideas in there around cloud serfs and that stuff, I think, that complements what Shoshana Zuboff is doing in The Age of Surveillance Capitalism in a good way. So that's something I reread. And then I reread Speculative Whiteness, Science Fiction and the Alt-Right by Jordan S. Carroll, which is sadly also a very important book, and that's what I reread. And then I reread High Ex-Bastards by Quinn Slobodian, which is also a really good book and also important. And that's kind of what I read last week. But the reason being that I'm trying to really work hard on that AI video, and since all of these books kind of fall into research for that, I wanted to sort of focus my brain, which, you know, worked out wonderfully not. So yeah, that's what I read last week. So let's talk about what I plan to read this week, because, you know, there's a week. And I don't fully know for all kinds of reasons. Say, I'll be going to another festival, so very limited reading time. What I plan to read, I already started, and I'll probably finish it today because it is relatively short, is Rakesfall by Vajira Chandrasekhara, which is, you know, the author of The Saint of Bright Doors, which I really, really enjoyed last year. And I finally got my hands on Rakesfall, which is region-locked as an audiobook in Europe, but through means I finally have access to it, and so I'm very, very excited to finally get to Rakesfall. It sounds like a really fascinating book, and with Saint of Bright Doors being so unique in a lot of ways, I have no idea how this will be, because Chandrasekhara does have like a very, you know, not like an established style at this point, so it could be anything, and I'm very, very excited for it. So that's definitely going to be a book that I read this week. Then Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle comes out tomorrow, and I'll try to get to it as quickly as possible because, you know, I kind of like Chuck Tingle. And his last horror books, both Camp Damascus, which was great, and Bury Your Gaze, which was absolutely excellent, make me very excited for another horror book. This time it seems to be about zombies, among other things. We'll find out. I'll find out tomorrow or later on, depending on when I'll get to that book. So that's what I'm planning to read, and I'm kind of excited to get back to some fiction. There's other stuff that I'll probably dip into on the nonfiction side, rereads around the AI video stuff, but I'm not quite sure which ones those will be. Maybe Globalists by Quinn Slobodian, which is a really interesting book about like the history of neoliberalism, and really, really enjoy that. And maybe also Crack Up Capitalism, which kind of falls into that. It's not like an official trilogy, but it kind of ties all of these three works by Quinn Slobodian are sort of connected, through his interest in neoliberalism and where it kind of led today. So I'm probably going to revisit them if I have the time. Otherwise, it's going to be Rakesfall and hopefully Lucky Day. So that's books. What about videos, you may ask? Well, I did put up one video. That's the video about Facebook books, by which I mean both Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams and Broken Code by Jeff Horowitz. And I did in fact re-record that video because I felt that like my first version wasn't really that good, so I re-recorded it, and I am relatively happy with the result. I thought like I managed to sort of explain relatively well what's going on with those two books and why they are why one of them is really good, one of them is not very good, and yeah, that's what I did, and I was happy that I could sort of like pull in some of my other readings and look at the idea of immediacy from that Anna Kornblue book, which has definitely caught my attention a lot. So I was happy to do that and, you know, bring a bit more of like an analytical sort of like framing to talking about those two books, which is generally something I try to do with my videos, to bring something to the table that goes beyond, hey, I like this book. And since I have, you know, at least some background in history and computer science and philosophy, I figured bringing those elements into the discussion might, you know, help, or at least make it interesting or stand out compared to other people talking about these books, and hopefully that makes them more interesting or entertaining or worthwhile for you, which is, you know, the goal here, right? So that's the video I made. And then I started working about actually recording parts for the AI video that I'm working on. And that didn't go so well. I recorded two parts, like the introduction and the first part, and I even put them together like with like editing and so forth. And while I was doing that, I realized that I'm not very happy with the result. Like, the introduction is fine, but that second part about the history of artificial intelligence research is not yet there, not where I want it to be, because, you know, it's a complex topic, and I want to get it right, and it's very easy to sort of like lose structure in that kind of stuff, and I certainly did lose structure there with the version that I recorded, so I guess I'll have to think some more about it and re-record it and so forth. So that's why the AI video is not yet out, and that's all I did, all beyond, you know, showing up on Britain, some Okie Dudes stream last night, which was fun, because it's always fun to hang out with Britain on stream. So that's what happened there. What about videos this week? Well, there'll be at least one. So I'm working on a video on the whole, like, why aren't men reading anymore, and books for men and so forth stuff. So it's a bit more of like one of those meta discussions, because a lot of people on booktube have, or like people that make book content on the internet, or book related content on the internet, on YouTube specifically, have made videos on like why men aren't supposedly no longer reading when there are no books for men, and damn all them women with them romantasy and shit, like, and I've got like very, very angry at a lot of them recently. So, you know, I decided to make a video about the subject because I think, once again, there's stuff to be talked about here that often gets ignored, and I'm trying to do that. We'll see how that goes. That's something I'll be recording later today, and it will be up sometime this week, while I'm at the festival. So I hope to get it done and rendered and everything and upload it before I leave tomorrow morning, and then as soon as I have a thumbnail, it'll go out during the week. So you'll definitely have one video. Then there are, of course, other possibilities. Because I might decide to make a video about Rakesfall, depending on what I think about it afterwards and whether I feel competent enough to actually do that. Because, you know, I'm not an expert on the Sri Lankan Civil War, and that plays a role in this book. So, yeah, might be something where I don't feel confident enough to talk about. We will see. Certainly a possibility. And there is, of course, the possibility of making a video about Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle, which will definitely happen. I just don't know whether it will happen this week, depending on when I read it, and or next week, depending on when I read it. Also, obviously, it kind of depends on when I have time to record it, because, you know, we will see. So if there will be a video on Lucky Day, it will be out on Sunday. Otherwise, it'll be sometime next week. We will find out. And that's the plan for videos so far. And I think that's kind of, you know, one of those questions, because I'll be traveling to another festival, probably one of the last ones, definitely the largest one for this year, which is Summer Breeze Open Air. There's a bunch of bands I really enjoy playing there. You know, some stuff like Agnostic Front, which I really enjoy, and there's Blind Guardian, which is obviously a band that I, you know, have like a lot of personal history with, so that's cool. So I'm gonna enjoy that. But it's, you know, one of the larger festivals in Germany. It's like 50,000 people, I guess. So it's huge, and that's usually very stressful. And they have like 4 full days of bands, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So friends and I are traveling there tomorrow, really early in the morning, to set up, build our, set up our camp, hang out, talk. It's friends that I don't necessarily meet that often from university times and so forth, so it's always nice to have that one like large festival where we all hang out together. So that's really cool, and I'm looking forward to that. But it means that I'll be gone from tomorrow morning until Sunday, and depending on when I'm back on Sunday, and if I have read Lucky Day, and how I feel after like a week of festivaling, I might record the video for Lucky Day, or I might not. It just really depends on that stuff. So there is some uncertainty there, and I think I'm fine with that. And I have, as I said, decided to move, the production for the AI video up a bit, like into next week. I am confident, like, in the larger structure of the whole thing. And rereading those books recently, like, helped me sort of figure out some more of the connections between the individual parts and all of that. But I need to get a grip on, that first larger segment of the video where I talk about the history of artificial intelligence research and the technology of the current large language models and what those do. And that's, I'll try to, map it out more, make a longer list of all the points I want to get into it, and juggle them around, which is usually how I, prepare for like a video. It's like I make a list, just like a vague, not even bullet points, I just like write down all the points I want to make in a video that I think are important, and then I just like push them around until they are in an order that feels reasonable to me. And depending how sloppy I get with that, it can get very chaotic when I do the exact video, and that's certainly part of what happened there with the part on artificial intelligence history. On the other hand, I mean, sometimes you realize that something works only once you've actually spoken it out loud, and that's, the thing that I said in previous videos when I talked about how I compare this a little bit to, say, stand-up comedy, where you need to try out these things. And try out I did, and so now I think I am better prepared to re-record the thing, and I'll try to do all of that next week. The other part is, with the way that my brain works, I kind of have to do these things in one go, and I have to do it like from beginning to end. It's something I've always struggled with when it comes to academic writing or whatever. I can't write like one part and then like another part and then rewrite, chapters or whatever. I have to start at the beginning, and I have to go from the beginning to the end. I can then go back and rewrite like the introduction, for example, or redo like a part afterwards once I've done the entire thing, but I have to go through it from beginning to end once, so I have a feeling of what is going on, and then I can go and redo shit. And that's definitely a problem when you're working on like something like a video like this, where you have to sort of record different parts, because while I might be struggling with the part about like artificial intelligence research right now, I'm not struggling. I'm pretty sure I'm good on the part on like capitalism. That part I'm pretty solid on, but because of the way my brain works, I can't record that part before I've recorded the other one. Obviously, that's also because it allows me to, make callbacks and references and so forth to stuff that I've already recorded, and that I think is easier for me than to go like, well, I need to set this up for the other part that I've already recorded, because that will very much fail, because once I switch on the camera, and I kind of have to focus on talking, and I can't really think too much at the same time about all the stuff that I'm missing or whatever. I just try to memorize like the structure that I had in mind, and then hopefully not forget too much about it. And so I'm struggling with that in a lot of ways, and that's why the AI video will be happening next week, because I want to get it right, and I want to make sure that it is a good video and adds something to the larger artificial intelligence discourse, which is obviously going on all the time at the moment. And I don't want to just be like another person going like, hey, look, AI sucks, so don't do it, because yeah, it does, and don't do it. But there's more to it, and we need to talk about how we talk about artificial intelligence in general, how we talk about generative AI in particular, how we talk about the systems that lead to people using it. We need to talk about the ideology of the people creating it. We need to talk about how science fiction literature in particular has had a huge impact on what people think about artificial intelligence and so forth. All of that stuff needs to be in that video, and I want to get it right. And that's kind of part of the struggle there, like overcoming my insecurities when it comes to that, and of course also getting it right. And I've decided, and this is one of those things that I'm sometimes wondering about, right? I've decided to record it outside once again, like on the balcony, because in my brain, and this is just me thinking out loud, and I might be completely off about this and completely wrong, right? That's very, very likely impossible. But I feel like it makes sense that to sort of like stylistically set apart different types of videos I do. Like, having the weekly navel-gazing rambly thing down here, for example, totally fine. Having a book review sitting under my bed and so forth, I think is also nice. But since I have started to do these long videos about larger topics like anti-intellectualism earlier this year, or last year, 2 years ago, the one about Arthurian literature or whatever, right? I figured that it makes sense to also set them apart in some other way. And for whatever reason, I thought that, like, hey, doing those educational videos on my balcony, not wearing a shirt and just wearing the denim vest, basically, with all the pins and stuff on it, right? Sounds like a reasonable idea because those are more educational, and in my brain, I don't want to come across as too sort of elitist, snobbish or whatever. To keep it accessible, and I figured that, like, hanging out as your average beer drinking heavy metal fan might help make it seem less daunting or less intimidating in a lot of ways. So I figured that's how I'll do the long videos. As I said, this may all be completely bullshit and stupid, and most of you just don't even watch the video, just like listen to it. That is very likely impossible. I don't know. But in my brain, it kind of makes sense. And that means if I'm recording outside, I need to deal with all kinds of other additional issues, right? For example, right now, it's super fucking hot. Like 30-something degrees. And that means it's not easy to record outside because cameras overheat when there's like sun shining. I don't necessarily want to sit in like the burning sun for a while either. So I need to record in like the morning or in the evening. And I also need to pay attention to like what my neighbors are doing because, it's summer, everyone is outside. So it can get like very noisy in the background. And there's a construction site relatively near. So I need to find the right time to record. And that also, can be a bit of a challenge. And when I know that there's other people outside potentially listening to what I'm saying, I get like very, very anxious and insecure about like recording on my balcony while potentially all my neighbors are just like sitting next door and rolling their eyes about me doing this, which, ties into that whole question of like, when do you tell people that you do stuff on the internet, right? Like when you talk to like people in your physical world, and it's like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, well, I do YouTube videos. And it's like, because then they ask about it, and there is still that weird barrier in my brain about telling people that I've known from outside of doing YouTube things, to telling them about that I'm doing YouTube stuff, with the danger that they might in fact actually watch the videos and then have like very different opinions of me or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of like weird insecurities in my brain, and that's just like how it is, and I don't know what exactly to do about it. So that's certainly what is holding back the artificial intelligence video in part, in that I can't, just like record like 5 videos or 5 segments in one day because of the way, time works and the way the weather works and the way the world works, basically. But my goal is to get back to that and like record it like one bit after another from like Monday onwards until the end of next week, so you'll finally get that video. That's roughly the plan. Now, I've been wrong about plans before, so who knows? I might be wrong about it again. And so that's kind of where we are. And I finally, actually have a cost estimate for my tooth replacement thing, and isn't that fun? It's roughly 2,600 euros, so I'll have to figure out how to pay for that. There's ways of paying that in installments and all of that, so I'll have to figure that one out. And I guess it means having that surgery at some point. Then it takes another like 4 or 5 months before the you can actually put like the new tooth on the implant thing on. So I guess if we're lucky, or if I'm lucky, I'll have like a full set of teeth around Christmas, maybe. We'll find out. So that's certainly another part that I'm, very much insecure about, like coming across like, I leaned into it in the beginning of the year with the whole like pirate thing, but there are sort of insecurities tied to that as well, and I just like need to overcome those from time to time as well. And We'll find out, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, this week, at least one video, maybe two. We'll find out, we'll see how much I can get done. And then I'll be, at Summer Breeze Open Air. Should any of you, by accident, actually be there as well, I don't know, let's hang out and have a beer. Otherwise, I hope you have like a good week. Do cool things, read good books, and be cool people. And, like, subscribe, join the Patreon, join the channel. I don't know, do all of those things. Comment something down below. Do cool things. Be cool people. Thanks for watching. I'll see you very soon. And until then, cheers.